My daughter, she was somebody. She was mine. You understand me, man? And he left her like she was nothing. And I can't stomach it. Okay? I can't stomach it. I just want the world to know who my daughter, Daneshia Heller, was. She was a strong, good heart, loving, kind person that was just trying to make her way through life.
Well, a man's now behind bars accused of killing a woman whose body was found in a Fort Lauderdale neighborhood.
Powell's approaching, Judge Means.
Altavius Powell has been charged with the murder of 30-year-old Daneshia Heller. The woman's body was left near a dumpster at Northwest 15th Avenue and 2nd Street in Fort Lauderdale. We know this happened Wednesday morning. Powell faced a judge Friday, but on charges unrelated to the murder. Police say while in custody, detectives identified Powell as the suspected killer and then now charged him with premeditated murder as well.
A grown man, standing in front of a camera, tears he couldn't stop if he tried. And all he kept saying was, "She was mine. She was mine." That's how we're meeting Daneshia Heller today. Not through a police report, not through a mugshot, through her father, a man whose whole world just got ripped out from under him. And honey, by the time I finish this story, you're gonna feel every single word he said. Because this is not one of those cases where things were obviously going wrong and nobody said anything. This is the kind of case that makes you stop mid-sentence and just stare at the wall for a minute. A 30-year-old woman, a mother, found behind a dumpster, covered in cardboard, in a city she called home. In every home, behind every closed door, there's a story waiting to be uncovered. Welcome to Dark Whispers, where we dive deep into the hidden truths of domestic crime and the relationships that turn deadly. If you're drawn to real stories, powerful insights, and the shadows most people avoid, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and step into the whispers they never wanted you to hear. Let me tell you something about Daneshia Heller before we go any further, because she deserves to be known as a person before she's known as a victim. Daneshia was David Heller's first daughter, and if you've ever measure every milestone against, and David measure every milestone against, and David, this man loved his daughter in that specific, loud, chest-out kind of way. He described her as having the heart of a tiger, and the way he said it, you could tell that wasn't just a phrase he grabbed out of the air. That was something he watched her grow into, something he saw in her every single day. She was strong. She was loving. She was the kind of woman who did not let people leave a conversation without feeling cared for. Like, she had a thing, a habit, a rule she lived by. It didn't matter what the conversation was, serious, funny, rushed, whatever. Before she walked out the door, she was going to look at you and say, "I love you." Every time. Without fail. Her father said it himself. She's going to tell you, "I love you," before she leaves. That was Daneshia. That was who she was. And on top of all of that, she was raising 3 children, 3 babies who needed her, who looked up to her, who called her mama. She wasn't out here just existing. She was building something. She was one of those people who keeps pushing forward even when life isn't making it easy. Just quietly doing the work, trying to carve out something real for herself and her kids. Fort Lauderdale was her city. These were her streets. She wasn't a stranger passing through. She was rooted there. She had family there. She had a father there who would have moved mountains for her if she asked. And none of that, none of it, was enough to protect her from what was coming. Now here is where I need you to really pay attention, because this is the part of the story that changes the temperature of the whole room. Daneshia's family, when asked about the man who was eventually charged with her murder, a 34-year-old man named Altavius Powell, said they did not know him. They could not connect him to any story she had ever told them. They could not place his face. His name meant nothing to them. And when investigators started digging, even they weren't completely certain what the relationship between Powell and Daneshia actually was, whether he really knew her, whether their lives had crossed before that night. These were still open questions. Oh, so now, we have a man arrested for a woman's murder, and nobody can even confirm how they ended up in the same place. Girl. That uncertainty alone is enough to make your skin crawl, because it means Daneshia may not have had any reason to be on guard. There may have been no warning signs she could have read, no instinct she could have followed. Whatever happened, it may have unfolded in a way she never saw coming. What investigators do know is that at some point that week, Daneshia ended up in a vacant apartment, and she never walked out of it on her own. Her body was found outside, behind a dumpster, covered with cardboard, like someone had made a deliberate choice to discard her, like someone had decided that this woman, this mother, this daughter, this "I love you before I leave" girl, was something to be hidden and forgotten. Her father's words when he heard about it said everything that words could possibly say. He left her like she was nothing, and I can't stomach it. I can't stomach it. Neither can we, David. Neither can we. Let's talk about how she was found, because that part of the story deserves its own moment. It was not a peaceful discovery. It was not someone calling in a wellness check or a neighbor noticing she hadn't been around. Daneshia Heller was found outside, behind a dumpster, her body covered with cardboard, in Fort Lauderdale, in broad daylight existence, meaning this was a real neighborhood, a real street, a place where people move through every single day, and someone left her there like that on purpose. Moving on, because we need to talk about what the investigators found when they started piecing this together. The vacant apartment. That's where police say it happened. That's where they believe Altavius Powell murdered Daneshia Heller. He moved her body outside and covered her with cardboard. Now think about that for a second. That's not panic. That's not someone who just lost control and didn't know what to do next. That is someone who, after taking a woman's life, stopped, thought about it, and made a choice about where to put her and how to hide her. I said what I said, and here's the thing that sealed it for investigators: his DNA. They found Altavius Powell's DNA at the crime scene. That is not a small detail. That is the kind of evidence that walks into a courtroom and speaks for itself. Whatever story might have been told about who was where and when, the DNA was already there, already waiting, already telling the truth. Powell was 34 years old at the time of his arrest, and the charge was murder, not manslaughter, not something lesser. Murder, now. While all of this is unfolding, while a family is falling apart and investigators are working the scene, the internet decided to do what the internet does. Rumors started circulating, and not small rumors. People in Fort Lauderdale started saying there was a serial killer on the loose, that this wasn't an isolated incident, that women weren't safe, that whatever happened to Daneshia was part of something much bigger and much more terrifying. Anyways, you already know how fast that kind of thing spreads. One post becomes 100, 100 becomes 1,000, and suddenly an entire city is in a low hum of fear, and families are second-guessing every plan they had for the week. It got bad enough that the Fort Lauderdale Police Department felt they had to come out publicly and address it directly, on camera, in front of reporters, just to slow the panic down. And the detective who spoke said it plainly. I know there's some stuff circulating on social media, so we're here to dispel any rumors or concerns. Then came the part that was probably meant to be reassuring, but honestly just raised more questions. We do not have a serial killer that we're looking at in the city of Fort Lauderdale. As far as we know, Powell has only committed one homicide, and that is the one we're referencing right now. As far as we know, like those 4 words right there. as far as we know. In the middle of what was supposed to be a statement meant to calm people down. You can't tell a community to relax and then leave that kind of door cracked open at the same time. But hey, that's where the investigation stood. That's what they had. And to their credit, they were being honest about it rather than over-promising answers they didn't have yet. So what? So the community was left sitting with that, waiting, watching, hoping for more information that, at least at that point, wasn't coming fast enough.
Well, we're hearing from the father of a woman found dead next to a dumpster last week in Fort Lauderdale. Police charged a 34-year-old man with murdering her.
NBC6's Nico Clemens is live in Fort Lauderdale. And Nico, you just spoke with the emotional dad. What is he saying?
You'll hear from him in a moment, and you'll see, rather, he was in tears nearly the entire time we talked with him. Daneshia Heller was her name, his first daughter. She was a mother herself, has 3 young children she leaves behind. He and the entire family, they still have so many questions. And today, police wanted to clear up any rumors that are out there about this suspect in the murder.
Yeah. She didn't deserve this. She didn't deserve this.
Unimaginable loss.
But my daughter, she was somebody. She was mine. She was mine. You understand me, man?
David Heller says his daughter was loving. Had a heart of a tiger, is how he describes her.
I'm departing from you in your conversation with her. She's gonna tell you, I love you, before she leaves.
On Tuesday, Fort Lauderdale police say they charged Altavius Powell with murdering Heller last week. Investigators say he murdered her in a vacant apartment and covered her body with cardboard outside. Investigators say they also found his DNA at the crime scene.
And he left her like she was nothing. And I can't stomach it. Okay? I can't stomach it.
On Tuesday, police wanted to clear up any rumors that are out there.
I know there's some stuff circulating on social media, so we're here to dispel any rumors or concerns. I'll start off by saying we do not have a serial killer that we're looking at in the city of Fort Lauderdale. As far as we know, Altavius Powell's only committed 1 homicide, is the one we're referencing right now.
Heller's family is still searching for answers.
I just want the world to know who my daughter, Daneshia Heller, was. She's a strong, good heart, loving, kind person that was just trying to make her way through life.
A life cut short at just 30 years old. The family says they don't know who the suspect is. Police aren't 100% sure what the relationship was between the suspect and Heller. They're not even sure if he really knew her, but they're still investigating to figure out what his motive was for killing. Nico Clemens, NBC6 News.
Altavius Powell was taken into custody and charged with the murder of Daneshia Heller. The DNA evidence placed him at the scene. The case moved forward. But here is where the family stood, and still stands, in a place that no amount of legal proceedings can fully reach, because an arrest answers one question and leaves 10 more wide open. The biggest one being, why? Why Daneshia? Why that apartment? Why that night? What was the connection, if there even was one? And how did a woman who said, I love you every single time she walked out a door end up in the path of someone like this? Make it make sense. Those questions were still sitting unanswered when investigators were last asked about them. The motive was not clear. The nature of any relationship between Powell and Daneshia had not been confirmed. The investigation was described as ongoing, which in real terms means the full picture had not yet been drawn. And for a family already drowning in grief, ongoing investigation is one of the hardest phrases to hear, because it means you go to sleep without the full story. You wake up without the full story. You answer your kids' questions, or you don't, because you don't know what to say, and you still don't have the full story. Daneshia's aunt, Latoya Snell, said the family had not slept, not since the news broke. Not since the phone calls started coming in. not since they had to figure out how to carry something this heavy. And David Heller, her father, he was not done speaking. Not even close. "I just want the world to know who my daughter was. She was a strong, good, hard, loving, kind person that was just trying to make her way through life. Just trying to make her way through life." That sentence does not need any decoration. It does not need any commentary. It stands completely on its own. There is a kind of grief that does not have a clean shape to it. It does not arrive in stages the way people describe it in books. It just lands all at once, and it stays. That is what David Heller has been living in since the moment he found out his daughter was gone. And what makes it heavier is that he is not just carrying his own pain. He is carrying the questions his grandchildren are going to ask one day. He is carrying the weight of 3 kids who came home to a world that no longer had their mother in it. He is carrying all of that while trying to hold himself together long enough to speak her name in public, to make sure the world does not reduce her to a headline and move on. Because that is what families of victims are up against, every single time. The news cycle moves. People get distracted. The comments slow down. The shares stop. And before long, a woman who had a whole life, a laugh, a habit of saying, "I love you," a father who would have walked through fire for her, gets filed away in someone's memory as just another sad story they heard once. David Heller was not going to let that happen, not without a fight. And so he stood in front of that camera, tears coming whether he wanted them to or not, and he made sure that anyone watching understood exactly who his daughter was. Not a case number, not a body behind a dumpster, a person, his person. She didn't deserve this. She didn't deserve this unimaginable loss. And then, quieter, like he was saying it more to himself than to anyone else, "My daughter, she was somebody. She was mine." Let me tell you something. There is no script for that kind of moment. No media training that teaches a father how to say something like that without breaking completely. David Heller said it anyway, because Daneshia deserved to have someone say it, what the family wants. Daneshia's aunt, Latoya Snell, spoke for the rest of the family when words from David became too heavy to keep carrying alone. She said they had not slept, not properly, not since the phone rang and everything changed. And that is what people outside of grief do not always understand. It does not pause. You do not get a break from it at night. You close your eyes and it is still there. You wake up and for 1/2 second everything feels normal, and then it hits you again, and you have to lose her all over again every single morning. The family's ask was not complicated. It was not wrapped in legal language or political strategy. They wanted justice for Daneshia. They wanted the people responsible to be held accountable in full. And beyond that, they wanted her death to mean something. They wanted it to push people, push systems, push whoever was listening toward making sure that another family does not have to stand in front of a camera with tears they cannot stop, talking about someone they loved in the past tense when they should still be here. That is a big ask, and it is a completely fair one. Because here is the reality. Daneshia Heller was not the first woman to be found in a place she should never have been, taken by someone who had no right to touch her. And until something changes in a real and lasting way, she will not be the last. That is the uncomfortable truth that sits underneath every story like this one. Rest, Daneshia. Your daddy made sure we know who you were.